Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have 3 books that I want to review for you. Please don't mind the messy hair. It's late at night. I just finished, the 3rd book, and I just felt like I needed to come on and talk to you. So one book is from my August reads that I used as a comparison to one of the other books that I did read in September. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Forsaken King by Penelope Barsetti. So I am quite disappointed in this book. I gave it 2 stars, probably even a 1 star if I knock it down. I had so many high hopes for this book. It promised dark romance, it promised fantasy, it promised spice. It delivered on a few of those things, but overall, I didn't like the way that the story progressed. I didn't like how the plot really didn't seem to be there at all. So basically, you are following Ivory and Mastodon. And so Ivory is like not really a princess, but she's of nobility. Her father is like a duke, I believe. And so she's been always raised in this type of, where she is just expected to get anything she wants, and everything like that. And then you have Mastodon, who was part of her royal guard. And on that, he seems to like stalk her, he seems to watch her, all of these different things. And so the book starts out within the first like 2 chapters, okay? You have where this guy, him and his, fellow scavengers or whatever they are, they ransack the castle or mansion or wherever it is that they live. It's not properly described. So they kill the duke at the time. They are looking for the 2 sons and the mother, and the 2 sons get, captured, taken to where the mother is, and only one of them does, the oldest, and he has to watch his mother being raped. So there is rape in this book series. That's not really a spoiler because it says it literally on the back. So not really a spoiler, but then you fast forward like 18 or 20 years, something like that. And then you are, in Ivory's point of view, she's in this, mansion type thing. And, she has a life of privilege. And so she always for the past couple of days, she sees that, Mastodon, she doesn't know who Mastodon is, but Mastodon is staring at her. She doesn't like it. She tries to tell her father. She tells her brother Riker. No one believes her, right? So then now all of a sudden she's having to journey, and this all happens very quickly. So she's having to journey to the castle, I guess, to where the queen is, because then they're going to do this tea type thing where they talk about who she's going to marry, or, who she's going to swoon, trying to get, to be there. So her father's like, I want you to capture the prince's eye, because he is very, greedy. He wants all this power. He wants to be king. So what better way to do that than get his, daughter in with the prince, and then the prince becomes king. And then, of course, how everything goes. So she sees that Mastodon is going with her, and she's like, I don't want to go. I have a bad feeling, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, fairly into the trip, she gets kidnapped by Mastodon, taken, to the bottom of the cliffs, to this, wintry solstice type thing. And, that's where the story kind of goes. Now, I don't really want to give away too much, but this is probably going to have some spoilers in here, so definitely just click away if you don't want spoilers. But there's no plot. Like, this whole time, you have where you're in the past 20 years, you see what happens, right? Then you're, in Ivory's position, and all of a sudden, like, she's being kidnapped, and you know why, because you have Mastodon's point of view, right? So clearly, he is the oldest son who watched his mother be raped. And you slowly find out, like, who had raped her, and like why Ivory is part of like this whole thing. And literally they get to the bottom of the cliffs, and at first I just don't like Ivory's character. I don't like Mastodon's character. Like, I just don't feel like they're fleshed out, that you're able to actually really get into their mindset, and you're really able to feel for that character and have that empathy. Like, they are very one dimensional. They're not, fleshed out like how most characters are. I thought that this was going to be a dark romance because it talked about, like Mastodon on the back, it says, his mother tells me exactly to do exactly what her father did and force her. So you know that her father is the one, Ivory's father, is the one that, raped his mother and forced her. But that's not the kind of man I am, so I say no. But then she asks Geralt, who is the most barbaric man he's ever met. So he ends up volunteering because he knows that Ivory would rather it be him than anyone else. Okay, so that's basically the whole damn story. Like, that's like on the back of here. That's the whole story. Like, you get to the part where they're under the cliffs. Obviously, Ivory's trying to leave. She encounters things that are in the wilderness. She ends up helping save Mastodon at one point. His name is Huntley, actually. But, she saves Huntley. I don't know why. Honestly, like, if you're trying to flee, girl, flee. Don't turn back around to go save him, especially whenever you're only, like this far into the book and you don't have anything for him. Like, you have no feelings, there's no nothing, like, just flee. So to me, that was kind of strange, right? Like, I don't understand, because she could have been freed. She could have went back to her life of privilege, told her father what was going on, and, everything would have been dealt with. Then you get to the part where he's supposed to rape her, and he goes into her place and ends up, like, telling her that he desires her or something. I don't know. He doesn't rape her. Like, it is not forced. Like, Ivory consents, right? Like, she understands what's going on, but she also desires him too. Because from her point of view, she's like, he's so hot. He's got these big abs and these big arms. And I'm just like, I'm not understanding what's going on. Like, this guy kidnaps you. In this book, time went by, very fast in a way where she talks about how they're on the road for days, climbing down this cliff, all of these things. But it's only like 10 pages. So you're not getting a whole lot of filler in there. You're not getting a whole lot of, like what they talked about or anything like that. Like, it's just very brief interactions. And I did not like either one of the characters. Once they start, having sex, it's like every stupid chapter is nothing but pages of sex. That's literally all it is. And, you still have this plot going on about how, they're wanting to overthrow her father and take back their rightful place and all of this stuff. And it would have been a good story. I liked the premise that it was on. However, the plot was at the very bottom of this book. The forefront of it was them just having sex in all these different positions and in all these different ways. And it was terrible. Okay, like, I love spice, I love sex, I love all of that. This book does not give you that. Okay, this book is basically sex on a page. I can flip to any one of these pages and there's something about him going down on her or spreading her legs or, the multitude of things, right? So after about 50% of this book, I was over it. I was just like, this is not sexy. This is not anything that I want. I mean, if you are a reader that wants to read basically chapter after chapter after chapter of just sex, get this book. That's all I can tell you. I liked the elements that the author was going for. I liked the story, the premise of taking back, one's kingdom type of trope, and, forced proximity, and even, a one bed trope. Like, I loved all of those things. It just did not deliver for me because I wanted more fantasy elements. I wanted more of the story. I wanted more of the characters to be fleshed out to where I actually cared about them. I rooted for them. I cried when they cried. I laughed when they laughed. But that did not happen for me in this book. I do not feel like the author delivered for that. I do, in my reading experience, everyone takes something different, right, from it. It's just not for me. Okay. I feel like the dark part of this book happened within the first 2 or 3 chapters, and then after that it was like an insta love type of thing where, all of a sudden she's having sex with him, now she loves him, now she's married to him, yada yada. I don't feel none of it. And I don't know why. This is a trilogy. I don't know if there's going to be more books than that. The second book is called The Broken Queen. The third one is called The Three Kings or something like that. I'm not going to continue on at all. But I don't know if in this book or in this series it plays a part later on. But like every single time they had sex, he or she talks about how his seed spilled into her again. How she took his seed again. Every single time. So I don't know if the author is planning on making her be pregnant. Because that's the only thing that I can understand why I needed to know that she took his seed every stupid chapter. So I digress. 2 stars. I might even bump it down to a 1 star. I should have DNF'd at 50%, but I am a glutton and I just continued reading. So if you like a fantasy story that has hardly any plot and not very many fleshed out characters, or you want something really spicy to read, here you go. The Forsaken King. The next book that I want to talk about was actually on my August TBR that I've already talked to you guys about, but I wanted to compare dark romances from, The Forsaken King to this book, The Dark King by Gina Maxwell. So this book, The Dark King, I didn't really go into much of what it was about in August whenever I did my wrap up, but it is a dark romance, okay? And it's fantasy. It has fae in it. It has, shapeshifters that are like werewolves, and they don't really talk much about like if there's different other, species in there, like vampires and actual werewolves and the whole lot. But you do talk about how there is fae, light and dark fae. You have shifters who shift into wolves. This book was very, very well done. I think I gave it 4 stars in August, if I remember correctly. It follows a girl. I read it a few weeks ago and I've totally forgotten her name. Bryn. Bryn is her name, okay? And she was from Wisconsin. She lost her job or whatever. You find this out within the first couple chapters. She loses her job. She finds a letter from this Nightfall casino in Vegas where they are telling her that she won a free 3-day trip to Vegas, to stay at Nightfall and, all these things. So she shows up. She tells them, about the flyer or whatever. They get her into a place and they said that the room that she was going to stay in ended up being, booked up. They double booked the place. So they upgraded her to VIP, to the VIP suite and with all of the extra perks that come along with it. So as she's there, in walks Caden. Caden Varen. And you find out, from a little bit from the tourists or whoever else is around, that he is called the King of Vegas. Like, he basically owns all of Vegas, or a big chunk of it. He is supposed to be this like really hot, sexy guy, she's swooning over him whenever she sees him. They lock eyes, they have a moment in the lobby, and then like it's done and over with. And I really liked that it was dual POV. So you get Bryn's perspective, and then you also get Caden's. And I hope I'm saying it right. Caden or Kaiden. Caiden. So Caden, you get his perspective a little bit, where he's like, who is that? Blah, blah, blah. He just like kind of briefly like rushes over it, and then we're back to Bryn. And Bryn is going to her VIP suite. She gets told that she gets to pick one of the necklaces that's like obsidian black. She gets to pick one of the necklaces to wear and all this stuff. So she goes down to the casino, decides to just try her luck at the roulette table. And here comes Caden. Caden wants to know who she is. Why is she in Vegas? And, at first I was like, why do you even care? But you find out later on. So they spend the night together, laughing, drinking, dancing. They have a really, really good time. Their chemistry together really works well. They wake up the next morning in the same bed. They're married. Oh, no. Because Caden, you find out, before this all happens, you find out that Caden is actually a king of the Dark Fae. And there's like this curse on the light and dark courts, because they were banished out of fairy, and, they have to live among the humans. And, the Dark King can't, kill the Light King intentionally, and, vice versa. And if either one of the kings get married and mated, is what they call it. So like they go through their ceremony, and not only are they married, but they're mates, right? So they're like bonded together. If either one of the kings get those, then all of a sudden, if your mate dies, the king dies, type of thing. So it makes a king very vulnerable. So not only is he having to worry about himself, but he actually has to worry about his mate now. And because if anything happens to them, happens to him. So now he is fuming. He is mad, rightfully so, because he did not want to be in this situation. He thinks that Bryn is the one that like cornered him into this, or whatever, and he's trying to decipher everything. So she leaves, and I don't know. Oh, he doesn't know if they're mated yet. He thinks it was just a normal wedding ceremony. That's what it was. So he is just like, my lawyers are going to figure this out. Just don't worry about it. So then he leaves, and he gets on a plane, and he's going to go to New York, I think, for some meetings. And all of a sudden, the further distance he gets away from Bryn, the sicker he gets. And so his brothers and his wolf shifters that are his guard, they figure it out. They fly him back. People go and pick up Bryn. They take her to his mansion or whatever outside of Vegas. And they keep her locked up, like as if she's a hostage, so she's mad. So throughout this whole book, okay, you have different elements. So you have like a fantasy element that I really liked that was put into modern times. So it's not like one of those, like the Forsaken King, where you are, swords and shields and, chamber pot type of thing. Like, this is modern Vegas. And I really liked how the author did that. But also, it's not just that, but you have a very dark contemporary romance element to it as well, because you can pull from different books like 50 Shades of Grey and books that are along those lines that deal with, BDSM, dom and submissive, just 50 Shades is like the most common that people know, but there are many other better books than 50 Shades written on that. But yeah, it has some of those aspects to it. You get Caden, who is very broody and very like alpha, and he's a dom 100%. Like, he doesn't want to get close to Bryn. He thinks that she set him up and all of these different things. And of course, she thinks that, he can be romantic. She just needs to bring this side out into him. And I don't know. There was a lot of miscommunication going on throughout that book. And that was the only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars, because I don't mind if a book deals with the main love interest having this miscommunication type of thing, because, in some aspects it works, right? But at some point, you have to stop with the miscommunication. Like, they have to sync up at some point, right? And this book did not ever sync up at all. Like, Bryn would say something and he would take it a different way, or he would say something and Bryn would take it a different way. Just over and over again. But other than that, the book delivered on every aspect. It had dark elements to it. Let's talk about the playroom, okay? Bryn goes through a lot of like what the dom sub things go through, where he gives her a safe word. She picks roulette because that's, where they first really started talking. And, just throughout the whole thing, I loved these characters because we spent time with them. We got to know their feelings, their personality, their character types. And I loved that about it. It was fleshed out, very well written. The plot made sense, right? Like, as you're going along, like, I never once felt like, oh my gosh, I don't understand what's going on. Like, why did you throw this in here, Gina? Or why did you do this? Like, it all made sense. It all flowed very well. It was a book that you could just like submerge yourself in, read in one sitting. It was just put together very nicely. And, you have the King of the Dark Fae being Caden, and Caden played it extremely, extremely well. He showed his alpha moments, his kingly moments whenever he needed to, but he also showed Bryn a different side of him. And he talks about that, about how he doesn't ever show this side of him. He didn't even know he had this side until Bryn came along, right? So, it just shows you progression in a character. It shows you development. It shows you, the plot is getting better. It shows you different things. And I highly suggest, if you like a dark contemporary romance, if you like fantasy elements that deal with the fae or, anything like that, if you like forced proximity or forced marriage, forced marriage, definitely, pick this book up. I would suggest that over a lot of books that I've read in this type of genre. Definitely way better than Forsaken King. Gina Maxwell does an extremely good job. It is a standalone, but it is in a series. So I'm going to assume that the second book is going to be of Tiernan or Finian, who is Caden's brothers. So you have that. And then the last book that I want to talk to you about. So I reread this book for probably the 80th time. Okay, I've read this book so many times, only because the author had me on her beta reading team. So the book has been out for a year already, but she was, refreshing it, giving the characters, the time that they deserve, kind of reworking the story and things like that. And so I was helping her with that. So I've read it over 80 times. But she sent me an ARC copy, a signed ARC copy. Come to find out, it was her only copy, until she ordered another one, obviously. But that is The Worst Story Ever Written by Nicole Wells. Guys, this book is not very big, okay? So, as you can see, it's really not big. I think it has a little over 300 pages. Maybe right at 300. Yeah. It's 304 pages. 303 pages. It is so, so good. Magic, mystery, and a match made in heaven. Maybe, and a somewhat mute aardvark too. Oh my goodness. I have to tell you about this. So I reread it again because she sent me her ARC copy signed, even though I had already read it. And I cherish that so much that I got done reading The Forsaken King, And I was so mad, and I was in like this reading slump because I was like, that just really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I saw this sitting on my shelf, and I said, "Oh yeah, she just sent this to me a week ago." I picked it up, I sat down, and I read it again. I love it. You follow Jane, who is a mystery writer. She doesn't have any family or anything. They're gone. And the biggest thing that you can get is the book fairy. So the book fairy will pick people who are worthy enough, visit them, give them inspiration, help them with their book writing and all of this stuff. Jane, she's a very comedic relief character. Um, she just says funny things. She's, very lighthearted, where she doesn't like take a whole lot of things, personally, I guess is the best way to describe that. She tries to see the better, side of things, the optimistic side. But what I really like about Jane is the book fairy finds her, and she's like, "You are Jane, you are the mystery writer, you wrote a book that was kind of similar to this," and blah, blah, blah. So she ends up at the castle, and she has this huge like crush on the crown prince Liam, and he's a vampire, but she has seen nothing but posters of him and heard about like how he advocates for the humans, and she just idolizes him, right? And just like finds him extremely attractive, but she's never met him. So she gets wrapped up into this murder mystery. The book fairy needs her help. She's at the castle, trying to solve this murder. She is all engrossed into these court politics. She meets people along the way that become her lifelong friends. So there's a fantasy element, a paranormal element. You also have comedy, you have mystery, and you have romance. So what I love about Nicole, okay, who has wrote other books like the Five Elements series, you have Upspark, you have Stardust, you have Twin Flames. And then she also wrote Midlife Magic School. And so what I really like, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I keep trying to stop having a yawn. Anyway, she wrote all of these books, and they can't be like one genre, right? Like you can't just be a murder romance, murder mystery romance, or fantasy romance. Like she will break the mold, okay? Like she will write, like Stardust was like a sci-fi fantasy romance, I think. Upspark was considered like a sci-fi paranormal romance. Like the genres that normally wouldn't go together, she puts together, and she does a very well job of that. Mystery and comedy, like why would you think to mix those two together? And it works. It works extremely well, because you grow to love these characters. You have a swoon-worthy romance in here, with our main character and her love interest. You meet friends along the way that will make you laugh. They make you angry at times. But that's the best thing about this story is, as you're reading it, like it doesn't have to be a dark romance. It doesn't have to have, all of the blood and gore, that come along with things. I mean, granted, there is blood and gore in here, but not like you would think with a fantasy book or a paranormal book, on its own, right? You have Jane, who's the comedic relief. Her best friend, that she finds they're real and everything. Like, they're hilarious. The book fairy is even funny at times. She got on my nerves a little bit. Aurelia did, who is the book fairy, but all in all, at the end of the day, I loved her. You meet Liam. You get this one perspective from Jane, what she thinks he is, and then you meet him and he's something totally different, and then like him and Jane start having some interactions, and then you're like, oh, okay. Oh, he's so hot. So definitely pick up this book if you want something that's gonna, kind of bring you out of your shell, or kind of get you through one of those reading slumps, or if you want to read something that's a little lighthearted but still gives you some of those elements you love, like murder, fantasy, paranormal, comedy. If you need something that's going to brighten your day, but yet also make you love the characters and make you love the world, and you can't wait until you get the second book of this, pick it up. It is so great. And it's a beautiful cover. She actually designs her covers as well. So this is not the original cover that released a year ago with it. This is one that she designed. Isn't it beautiful? I love it. I absolutely love it. I think she did an amazing job. I am so happy that she allowed me to be a part of that journey with her, because whenever I had met Nicole, I had done a book tour for her Stardust book, which is her second book in her 5 Elements series. And I loved that book, but then this one came out and I ended up absolutely adoring this book. And, you know, I would always message her on Instagram and I'd be like, I love this or I love that, or I would ask her questions. And, you know, she's became a friend, an extremely good friend. And I'm happy that I love her book so much. And, you know, the one thing that I really like about Nicole is, as I was reading and she was redoing the book and stuff, she wanted me to tell her what didn't work. And, you know, at first I was like, I love everything about it. And she's like, I know that there's things that need to be changed, right? And so, like, she let me be comfortable in that, in telling her, hey, I don't think this works, or giving her suggestions. Sometimes she would use my suggestions because maybe it worked well with the story and the plot that she was going for. And other times she didn't, because I'm not a writer, right? So I don't know. But, you know, I really enjoyed that she let me be on this journey with her. And I do want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for that, because as I was going on this journey with her, reading this book every week over and over again, you know, helping her with things, she actually helped me. I was going through a very hard time in my life. I had gotten some extremely bad news. I was not in a good headspace at all. And she was there. She put the book aside. She put things aside. Not necessarily for me, but like she was there for me. She let me talk with her well into the night. She let me, you know, I don't know. She was there for me, and I love her for that. And I love that she was patient with me in going through this with her, and, you know, valuing my opinion, you know, and I really like that. So if you guys really want a good book, definitely pick this one up. So those are the 3 books that I kind of wanted to go over. Granted, one of them was on my TBR for this month. One of them was on my wrap up for last month that I had already read. And then, of course, this one was like a reread, you know, that wasn't even on my TBR. I didn't even expect to get the physical book yet because I hadn't had the money to buy it. And then all of a sudden it popped up in my, mailbox one day, and, you know, she signed it and she told me to go check the acknowledgments, and I did. And of course I cried whenever I saw that I was in the acknowledgments. So thank you, Nicole, for that. But I really hope you all enjoyed my my review on all of these. I really wanted to, this video was going to be just a comparison of dark romances between the Forsaken King and the Dark King. And I had to throw in the worst story ever written because I had just finished reading it again. And, you know, I was like, you know, I really got to talk about it, because there are different ways that you can write a fantasy book. There are different ways you can write a paranormal book that work well. And unfortunately, The Forsaken King by Penelope Barsetti just did not do it for me. I am not continuing on with the series. I will probably, you know, be giving away that copy because I don't really need to keep it. So if either one of those books are ones that you have read or that you want to read, leave me a comment down below. Let me know which one you liked or you can't wait to get to. Also, in my description, you can follow me on Instagram, at my personal Instagram, my author services. You can also follow me on Goodreads. Definitely like the video, subscribe, stick around for some of my content. And until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye!